A very pleasant evening to one and all present here. I take immense pleasure in welcoming you all in today's webinar, National Educational Policy NEP 2020. Let us invoke the blessings of the Almighty for the successful conduct of the event. So now I request for the prayer song to be played.
கருவாக்கி உருவாக்கி எனையாண்டு காத்தருளும் இறைவா நன்றி. எங்கும் நிறைந்தோனே எல்லை இலாதானே, எங்கேயும் எப்போதும் என் குலம் காப்பவனே. நெஞ்சம் துணிய துணையாய் வருவாய், நேர்மறை உணர்வுகள் பெருகிடச் செய்வாய். உடலில் உறுதியை பெரிதாய் தருவாய், உனை உணரும் அறிவை என்னுள்ளருள்வாய். சுற்றமனைத்தும் காப்பவனே, செய்தொழிலில் ஏற்றம் தருபவனே, எடுத்த செயலில் வெற்றி கொடு, என் ஆற்றல் பெருகிட அருளை கொடு. கருவாக்கி உருவாக்கி எனையாண்டு காத்தருளும் இறைவா நன்றி. வல்லமை தந்து நீ வளர்ச்சி கொடு, அகத்திலும் புறத்திலும் மலர்ச்சி கொடு. வளர்ச்சி கொடு, வளர்ச்சி கொடு, வளர்ச்சி கொடு, மலர்ச்சி கொடு.
Thank you, sir. With the blessings of our founder chairman, late Shri D. Sudarsanam, let us go for the commencement of the program. On behalf of SA Engineering College, our respected college chairman, Shri D. Duraiswamy, our secretary, Shri D. Desiradin, our correspondent, Shri S. Amarnath, our director, Shri D. Sabarinath, our beloved principal, vice principal, head of the department, professors, faculty members of our institution, I extend my warm welcome to our guest, Dr. Shirmila Stanley, Assistant Professor of Commerce and Convener Dr. Devanesen Center for Human Resource Development, Madras Christian College, and delegates from various colleges and schools. Let me take this moment with pleasure to say a few words about our institution. SA Engineering College was established during the year 1998-1999 by Dharma Naidu Educational and Charitable Trust with an overall 23 years of excellence in teaching. Our college is an autonomous institution that is affiliated to Anna University, Chennai, and approved by AICTE, Delhi. Our college is well equipped along with various facilities for the learning and working members of the institute, with 5 lakh square feet of constructed area that includes classroom, seminar halls, laboratories, individual department libraries, central library, workshops, and associated facilities. In recognition of the high quality policies, our college has been awarded ISO 9001-2015 certificate. Our college provides 10 undergraduate programs and 6 postgraduate programs. All our undergraduate programs are accredited by National Board of Accreditation, Delhi, and NAAC certified with A grade. The college provides a high standard of education by providing a wide array of world-class academic facilities, employing highly qualified and experienced faculty members, and creating an ambience of conducive quality education. Now, I'd like to say a few words about our honorable guest. Dr. Shirmila Stanley holds a PhD in Commerce from the University of Madras. She also holds a MPhil and MBA from the University of Madras. She has earned her undergraduate BCom and Master's MCom degree in Commerce from Madras Christian College. Her passion for teaching found its root during her collegiate education. She is serving her alma mater as a faculty in the Department of Commerce for the past 22 years, teaching undergraduate and master students, along with guiding research scholars for the doctoral program. She underwent various training programs at international universities such as Harvard University, Cambridge, and International Christian University, Tokyo. She has also participated in various international seminars as both panelist and participant. She has presented several papers in international and national conferences and also published several research articles in journals. She also has received various awards like Dronacharya Award and Mrs. Lalita Sadasivam Excellence Award. Some of the administrative positions held include Dean of Women Students, Associate Coordinator, Director for the semester in 2013 India program. She has served in several committees. She has completed many research projects sanctioned by United Board for Christian Higher Education in Asia. Currently, she is the convener of the Center for Human Resource Development at Madras Christian College as a human resource trainer. She is involved in training students and faculties at national level. She is an exponent in the field of sustainable development, strategic management, financial management, service marketing, and various other fields. With that, we are pleased to have you here with us. Dear participants, a feedback link will be posted on the chat box at the end of this session. Kindly please fill that form. Now, I hand over the session to the resource person, Dr. Shirmila Stanley. Ma'am, please.
Good evening, and I'm so glad and thankful to SA Engineering College for having invited me over as a guest speaker for today's session. I wish to thank the chairperson, the correspondent, the principal, all the teachers, as well as the dear students. And thank you so much for providing me with this great opportunity. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible, sir? Okay. So,
yes, ma'am. Yes.
Today's topic, right, it's so relevant in today's scenario, and we are like, progressing so much in different fields, in different areas, that definitely a reformation, we are looking for certain reforms to take place. So therefore, this is one step towards that particular direction. Our NEP, the National Education Policy, or the new National Education Policy as it is referred to, 2020. So today I'm just going to give you it's in a very condensed manner so that we can all have an idea about what are the expectations from NEP and how we can develop ourselves taking these thoughts in mind. So I have structured it in this fashion. We have the contents. First, I would like to talk about the need for restructuring. Then it's about analysis of the restructure that's happened. So I'm trying to project some highlights of the restructure. And then we'll be having a talk on the NEP's impact on the school education, as well as NEP's impact on higher education, the role of regulatory and professional bodies, because we are now figuring out that there are a lot of professional bodies which are going to play along. So just a glimpse about the role of such regulatory professional bodies, as well as the challenges that it poses. Some of the challenges definitely which will come our way, we are going to try to discuss. So to begin with, a need for restructure. Right. So everything starts with perception, right? So what is our perception with regard to the existing education system or the education pattern that has been existing for so long? Now, when we talk about perception, probably, the immediate thought that comes to our mind, or the word that comes to our mind, is always rote learning, right? So we have always been obsessed with rote learning for so long, memorizing and then reproducing it, and then grading students only on the basis of marks, and of course, not providing much of flexibility for them to choose their own career paths, because we had defined it, we had structured it so well within our institutions that they had to pick something that we are offering, right? So this is what comes to our mind when we talk about the education system that has been in place for so long. So some of the points that have been highlighted in the document itself, I'm just projecting it here so that it'll be useful for you as you read it. So the document says the gap between the current state of learning outcomes and what is required, must be bridged through undertaking major reforms that bring the highest quality, equity, and integrity into the system from early childhood care and education through higher education. Right? So we are starting from early childhood care education through higher education. So therefore, this change is a much needed one. We are looking for restructuring in this particular pattern if we have to really bridge the gap of what is actually needed and what exactly we are looking at for our future people. Next is about the gross enrollment ratio. Now, if any country has its own yardsticks, you may have to measure it based on certain metrics, and you compare it with a global scenario too. So that being the case, this gross enrollment ratio plays a crucial, critical role in the Indian scenario to understand, how people are taking education and literacy seriously, and how many literates and educated people are there, and so on. So that would give a clear-cut picture about a particular country, a particular state, and so on. So this gross enrollment ratio, though in states like Tamil Nadu has always been excelling well, but that is not the case throughout India. So therefore, a projection that is found in the policy document says that the GER in higher education, including vocational education, was 26.3% in 2018, but we aim to bring it up to 50% by 2035, right? And then there's also a plan to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio in preschool to secondary level by 2030, because presently it says from grade 6 to 8, the GER is just 90.9%, and grades 9 to 10, it is 79.3, and grades 11 to 12, it is 56.57. So therefore, in order to inculcate or in order to promote more people to join, there definitely needs to be a kind of a restructuring. Next, of course, is the demographic advantage. Right now we are talking about a great demographic advantage that India is facing, because the youth population in India will be much more in the coming years. And you can see that when a youth population emerges from a particular country, you have to really provide for them in several ways, especially when it comes to their employment. Either you should make them employable, or you have to create entrepreneurs, so you have to make them self-employed. So either of the way, you have to do something for them in order to keep them engaged in the community in a very constructive manner. Otherwise, the entire youth population, once they go out and they discover they are not employable or there is unemployment, it might lead to more drastic results. Therefore, we should try to, gain on this particular demographic advantage that India is facing. Now, compare it to Japan, right? So in Japan, it is mostly, people above 70 are found every 3 in 1 people are, literally 70 years old and above 60 years old at least, right? So you see that, that being the case, the scenario, you can very well understand the needs or the priorities that would take place in that particular government. Now they would be looking or working towards providing for people above 60 with regard to their pension plans and their medical needs and so on. So you see, depending on certain demography, the needs, the priorities of governments would change, and you have to tap that. Therefore, when we look at everybody in the world around is looking at India, looking at the favorable situation that India is having presently. So it is high time that we restructure and try to provide as much opportunities as possible for our younger generation. And next, of course, is definitely the sustainable development goals. We have to ensure that there is some kind of an inclusivity, education that is provided, and it also talks about, lifelong learning opportunities. Now, inclusivity is something that has been eluding our organizations. We should say that, because when we talk about inclusiveness, right now in this particular NEP, so many things have been included, so many aspects have been considered. Even learning disability has been included now, right? And teacher education is going to take care of that. That's the reason why they are now promoting four-year teacher program, basically because they want to ensure that when a teacher steps out of those teacher education institutions, they are kind of, they are enabled or they are empowered to deal with students with different kind of difficulties. So therefore, even socially, economically disadvantaged groups, so many people have been included now. Even transgenders have been included. So it's a new outlook that we are going to have, when we talk about inclusive nature that we find in NEP. And next, of course, Industry 4.0, right? Right now, we are in Industry 4.0. There is so much talk about the age of disruption, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, and data science, everything taking over the businesses. And businesses are not the same. Everything is being reshaped now, right? Every core aspect of it is getting reshaped because they cannot continue in a similar fashion. So when businesses are getting reshaped automatically, the skills that are needed to run them, to run businesses, to run industries, to run organizations, everything now undergoes a drastic change. And probably in 5 years down the lane, we would be looking at jobs which never existed. Right? We'll be looking at those jobs which do not exist now. But at the same time, the jobs which existed for so long, might not be there in next 5 years' time. So how quickly are we going to equip our own younger generation towards that? Providing them with the required workforce skill set that they require. So all of that only an education, a proper education system can actually address. So hence there is an urgency and a need for such restructuring. And of course, breaking of silos, because every discipline or department would work on its own, and then every unit as such would work on its own. But now that is not the case, because you need to understand that art, science, even fine arts, everything has to come together, right? Understanding psychology, should be a part of a person's life. So every aspect, even if you're a science-based person, you should know psychology. You have to know the philosophy behind it. You have to know certain sociology of how the people behave, and so many aspects are there. So therefore, all of these emerging trends, probably with regard to climate change, there is so much need for projects and studies, and also with regard to the recent epidemics and pandemics, there was a sudden rush of need for certain new studies, collaborative research work. So all of that has put us into a stage where we have to move from silos to being a multidisciplinary learning capacity. And of course, our education, there is a need to restructure it, because we are looking at a holistic education, right? So it says education it has to move towards less content and more towards learning about how to think critically, solve problems, and how to be creative, right? Multidisciplinary, and how to innovate, adopt, and absorb a new material in novel and changing fields, right? So there is a need for a radical change, and that's exactly that is being carried out through NEP. And of course, the equitable aspect is also there, right? When we talk about equitable, we refer to both equity and the equality aspect of it. How opportunities are provided to all is equitable, is considered as equality. And equity basically is about how you provide sufficient opportunities to that group of people who will require it, and then you bring them up to the level of others. That is equity. So all of these are now taking shape, in this NEP. And of course, rooted in Indian ethos and heritage, India has a very rich legacy, a world heritage, which has to be nurtured. It has to be preserved from generation to generation. It has to be preserved. And what best way can it be done other than, trying to integrate it into our curricula, right? So that is also another aspect that we find in NEP. So these are some of the reasons why we actually needed a restructuring as such. So some of the highlights, I would say that it's actually a radical departure from the past, right? So I would call it radical and not totally revolutionary, because we are trying to retain some of the very genuine, some of the very aspects which actually work well. We are even trying to retain some of the policy, some of the other institutions which are actually providing support. So therefore, it's a radical departure from the past. And then we are actually preparing Indians to shape into the 21st century well. And then about the previous policies, this is the third education policy that we are getting after 1968 and 1986, which was updated in 1992. The draft of 2019, it contained almost 484 pages, and the final document came out. It contained about 66 pages. And the final policy got approved by the cabinet on 29 July 2020. So in that policy, if you see nearly school education as such, about 27 pages have been dedicated, and higher education about 17 pages, and the rest about 12 pages. So therefore, a thorough, with a lot of vision, things have happened. So I would say that NEP is quite progressive, futuristic, and ambitious in nature. But definitely, its success will depend on the implementation and involvement of all the stakeholders. Okay. So moving on to some of the analysis of restructure. Okay. This is in nutshell what kind of changes have actually happened because of NEP, and how our school education, the new things are likely to come up, and how it is going to impact our college education too. So this is just providing you a nutshell. We will be looking at it much deeper inside. So when we talk about school education, as I told you, the thrust is now more on conceptual understanding, on foundational literacy and numeracy. So when we go inside deep, I'll tell you what kind of roadmap are they developing for promoting this. And next, of course, we are looking at a restructured school education, right? We are doing away with the 10+2 pattern, and then we are moving ahead with the 5+3+3+4 structure. Okay. And next will be the restructuring of the school curriculum and the pedagogical structure. Everything is getting completely restructured. Then especially assessments, right? There is a complete transformation of assessment for student development. There are professional bodies which are going to do it. There are certain frameworks which are going to come out, which are going to enable a proper assessment. And then there is a lot of flexibility, and there are a lot of choices that are being provided for the students to build their own career paths. And the emphasis is mostly on the 21st century skills. And of course, as I already pointed out, because of industry revolution, the 4.0 and things like that, very many contemporary subjects are now being thought of, like coding going to be included in grade 6, artificial intelligence, and design thinking also they have started working, because now they want more of students at the school level itself to understand the importance of innovation, creativity, and so on. So they said design thinking is going to be part of even a 6th grader now. So therefore, certain contemporary subjects are in the offing. And then, as we already saw, there is no hard separation, right? So there is nothing like art stream separately, or a science stream separately, or a commerce separately. There is going to be no hard separation that way. And we are looking at a holistic education. When we say a holistic education, we are looking at all the aspects, like even their health, right? Their physical health. So measures are being taken to ensure their physical health. And then their mental health is now going to be taken care of. Right, we are going to have counselors, and there is even an option for volunteers of local community to help out children. So like that, we are trying to look at a holistic way of developing children. So probably it will be including their health aspect, their emotional aspect, right? Their anything to do even with their financial aspect, and also promoting their gift, their talents, and so on, as well as helping them out in several ways. So we are looking at a holistic approach. And then next is the vocational education, right? So vocational education and internship are also on the offering. Multilingualism and 3 language, as well as this is also on the offering. And teacher education is going to go through a kind of a drastic change, because now only multidisciplinary universities will be called to have or engage with teacher education, to offer teacher education, and it is going to be a 4-year. So there are a lot of changes that is anticipated in the teacher education. And then, of course, it is completely rooted in Indian tradition, legacy, heritage. So more importance is given to certain languages, learning of languages, and promoting Indian languages. So there are a lot of fun activities, projects that have been inculcated for people to understand it. Some cultural exchanges are going to take place. So many things are finding place. And then there is this restructured higher education, right, wherein multiple entry and exit options are being provided, which we'll be seeing at length. And of course, the academic bank of credits which is going to fetch a degree at the end. And then, of course, the multidisciplinary approach, even in the higher education system, the restructuring of boards and creation of new autonomous bodies. As I told you, the implementation itself would depend on all of this. Efficient resourcing and effective governance, and of course, taking into account the cornerstones of quality learning, such as the curriculum, pedagogy, and then the assessment, as well as the student support. All of that is going through a drastic change, and we are looking at the public philanthropic participation, local and learned community involvement in everything, inclusive and equitable education, and then there is this concept of lifelong learning. That's the reason why there is ODLs, open distance learning, and other things are being promoted so that a lifelong learning can actually take place. The next part which I would like to talk about is the challenges that I call it as a 3 I's. The 3 I's challenges, namely, definitely there's going to be challenge during the phase of implementation, and also interpretation of intention and the implication. So these are the three main challenges. Though we will be looking after we go through the NEP policy as such, we will be having certain challenges at the end. But this is something that is there at the back of our mind, right? Quickly, if I'm going to even ask people what comes to your mind when you think about NEP, so your concern would be in one of these three areas definitely. How are we going to implement it, right? So what are going to be the hiccups during the implementation phase? So implementation definitely is going to be a challenge because, as we already see, a lot of infrastructural developments need to take place, and then a lot of support structures are needed, budgets are needed for that, and a lot of disciplines are called for. So which means you need a lot of teachers for that. So many implementational stage issues are involved. So definitely that's a main challenge which has to be addressed. And next, of course, is the interpretation of intention, right? So interpretation of the intention that is found there, right? On the face of it, probably we are clear about what is needed, but there are certain angle or motives if it is being associated to certain developments that is shown there, then probably people are not very clear about it. So therefore, any interpretation or any motive has to be clarified for the people. For instance, even the language issue, the three language, it was a big issue in Tamil Nadu. So therefore, what is the interpretation? What is the intention? And is there any motive behind that? So that I think it has to be clearly said, and it has to be clarified so that people with free mind can work, because this NEP is actually a very, very progressive and futuristic model, I would say, provided that it's agreeable to everyone too, and that there are no underlying motives or any other hidden agenda, but it's only a clear intention of growth and development. And next, of course, is the implication, right? Implication, when we speak, it talks about for example, there is this multiple entry and exit. So multiple entry and exit, it has been proposed, and with the intention that this would probably help students to probably exit and then re-enter whenever they want. So there is no age bar. They can actually enter whenever they need and whenever they feel that they can complete it. But this again, people are trying to say whether this will be a successful model here, right? Because whether once students quit, whether they would have the desire to come back. So we have to really watch and see how the implication of certain policies are. So that really depends on, once it gets implemented, you should have some yardsticks to measure and see whether the implementation stage, till that stage, whether we have been successful in having that particular policy there, and whether it needs a restructuring and so on. Right. So next we will have a look at some of the professional and regulatory bodies that are found, namely the National Assessment Center, PARAC, which is going to take care of many things, and then the State School Standards Authority. There is this MERU's, Multidisciplinary Education and Research Universities, National Committee for Integration of Vocational Education, professional standard setting bodies, and then there is this National Research Foundation, a very, very unique and a foundation meant to promote research among higher education institutions. And then Higher Education Commission of India, the HECI, which is basically now a total umbrella, right? Like UGC, AICT, everything probably now will be merged with this HECI. So it will be totally, it will turn into Higher Education Commission of India. But under that Higher Education Commission of India, there are four verticals, right? So the four verticals are, the first one starts with the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, NHERC. It's a regulatory council for all the guidelines and regulations. And next, for accreditation council, right? Earlier the previous NAC, but this is National Accrediting Council, which is being formed newly, right? This will be a Meta Education Grants Council for promoting grants, and then there is this General Education Council, right, which is going to provide people with a lot of standards, right? How certain things have to be conducted, certain guidelines, certain standards, setting standards basically would be some of the role of this General Education Council, and also promoting some of the assessment measures. So therefore, there is this. These are the four verticals that we find under Higher Education Commission of India. Next, of course, we will see how the school education undergoes a change. I think wherever there's a repetition, I might skip over because we might not have time otherwise. So in school education, already we discussed it's going to be a 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 model, and then the 5 years foundational stage, 3 years of preparatory stage, 3 years of middle stage, 4 years of secondary stage. And of course, we start from ages 3 onwards, 3 to 7 and 8, 9, 10, and then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And then the grades, we see that the foundational stage will comprise still second grade, but it starts from the preschool, right? So this we refer it to as the Early Childhood Care Education, ECCE. In fact, most of the real-time activities in school, they would start only from grade 1, and whatever happens before that, it used to be in a very, very informal structure, but now they don't want to do in that fashion. They have brought all the preschooling as well as the LKG, UKG, all of that into this fold, and going to provide a complete structured program, which is going to be, of course, a playway activity-based learning, right? Because they feel that children learn very young, and we really need to tap their potential at that stage also. So we are going to make it more playway and activity-based learning. And then, of course, a preparatory stage, which is going to be more formal but interactive learning. And during the middle stage, namely the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, there's going to be a major transition, I would say, because vocational education is going to come, during that point in time. And also coding, as I told you, design thinking, and all of those new subjects and concepts, certain kind of scientific temper-related areas, all of that are going to be introduced during that point in time. And then further on, that will actually help them to step into a secondary stage where it will turn completely multidisciplinary with various courses that are going to be offered for them, with critical thinking and subject choice, flexibility in subject, various contemporary subjects, as I told you. And of course, we spoke about the language component, and then the examination here we see that it is for there is a relook at the way examinations are going to be conducted. So third, fifth, and eighth have also been brought into the fold of examination pattern along with the 10th and 12th. And the next thing that we see here is along with 3 R's, that is usually it is we call the reading, writing, and the arithmetic as the 3 R's. So along with these 3 R's, now there is stuff like coding and other things that is being introduced. And we are also going to talk about the school complexes that are going to come up for the purpose of sharing resources, and special education zones, especially to cater to the needs of socio-economically disadvantaged group. And then we are looking at always the public-private twinning aspects, or the philanthropic way in which we can carry out our programs. Yes. So with regard to the foundational literacy and numeracy, we see that the aim is ensure that all students entering grade 1 are school ready by 2030. So that has been the aim. And to attain this aim, what is the roadmap that they have? They are going to come up, that is NCRT is going to come up with a national curricular and pedagogical framework for early childhood care and education. right? This is going to be a framework for the children of age up to 8. So they're going to have it as sub frameworks for 0 to 3 years old as well as 3 to 8 years old. And next aim for ECCE is that they also look for foundational literacy and numeracy. The highest priority of education system will be to achieve universal foundational literacy and numeracy in primary school by 2025. So they have given a target year now. So within that period, we are expected to achieve this. So what is the roadmap for that? MHRD is setting up this national mission on foundation, literacy and numeracy. And they have fixed up on a pupil teacher ratio as 30 is to 1, whereas in wherever there is more of socio-economic disadvantaged group, it would be 25 is to 1. Then you're going to have a continuous professional development CPD for 50 hours for teachers. Then there's going to be a lot of digital learning that's going to take place through Diksha, that is the digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing. There's going to be a lot of peer tutoring and volunteering activities. This is where they kind of expect even the community people to get involved in volunteering activities and helping students to learn. Then there is this national book promotion policy, and also mental and physical health support through counselors, social works, and also the community. So in fact, they are planning to even make a list of resource people, right, even retired scientists and so on, who would be able to engage well with the students and try to tutor them, or they are all considered as volunteering activities that anybody is encouraged to do. So next important issue is, of course, always the dropout rates. The GER and the dropout rates have been an issue. We discussed the GER during the first slide itself. So what is the roadmap for, in fact, curtailing such a dropout, right? So this basically, the roadmap is first and foremost develop a proper infrastructure, right? So they need a proper infrastructure, because as you see right now, even toilet facilities and other related aspects are a big time issue in certain Anganwadis and so on. So infrastructure is the first and foremost why. And then the universal participation. As I told you, universal participation, it refers to people, whoever, right? Like you make a list of resource people who are willing to participate either into volunteer or to do some tutoring. So there is going to be universal participation, not just the teacher and the student, right? So you're going to even have all other people like the counselors, you're going to have social workers. So there is going to be a universal participation. The reason is they are going to have a lot of tracking system and so on, so that they identify why a child has dropped out, what is the reason, why, and how well you can again make them come back, and try to integrate them. So all of that deep kind of work can happen only when there is a universal participation. Next, of course, is ensuring quality. We are providing quality in everything, even including the way they are going to be assessed and so on. And then providing multiple pathways. So multiple pathways is, as I already told you, they are looking at online learning, they are looking at open digital learning. So all of these distance learning. So all of these are going to help people to somewhere be in place and then continue with their studies, and all of that is going to add credits, and it's going to fetch them some certificate and so on. And next, of course, the public philanthropic participation, and then involve community and alumni in lot of volunteer effort. Next, of course, we saw how the restructuring of school curriculum and pedagogical structure has taken place. The aim of education will not only be the cognitive development, but also building character and creating holistic and well-rounded individuals who are equipped with the key 21st century skills. So what is the roadmap for that, right? How do you develop all of this? The first one happens to be reducing the curriculum content, right? Reduce the curriculum content. The reason is, with more content, probably children are only kind of working their way through getting marks and things like that. They don't have time for thinking, reflecting, observing, and so on. So therefore, reduce the curriculum content so that you can enhance certain essential learning and critical thinking, and then you can have a lot of experiential learning as such, right? You are going to integrate learning of arts, sports, storytelling. imbibe Indian ethos through Indian art and culture. We're going to bring about various indigenous sports in a very pedagogical practices to develop their skills, collaboration, self-initiative, self-direction, right? So all of this, integrated learning will actually help them to become well-rounded individuals who are equipped with, the key 21st century skills. Uh, so if we look at some of the Western schools as well as even in places like Japan, we can see that they are involved with various sports related activities and various other activities apart from their regular school work. So therefore, that provides them or gives them a lot of chances for creativity, for innovation, and for learning many new things. For even for scientific temper, developing a scientific temper, it is of more use. Next is flexibility in course choices at secondary level. And then, of course, we saw there is going to be no hard separation. Multilingualism, power of language is being insisted upon. As we already discussed, uh, right, there are two sides to this. Of course, I would like to share a few experiences. One thing, when I was there in International Christian University in Japan for 2 months for one of the programs there, though I was a commerce faculty and though I trained people, they insisted that I need to give them a talk, right? And the talk that they insisted upon was how Indian children start learning English at a very early age. That was the talk that they wanted me to give because they wanted to know how we are becoming very fluent in English language. Because they are going into internationalization, as we saw that they're having a tough time filling their universities due to because young population is not there much. So therefore, they are into trying to get or attract other people onto their universities. Even Taiwan is facing a very similar crisis. They all have big infrastructure. They all have huge, spaces. But then filling that is now becoming, turning out to become a real challenge for all of them. And when we talk about internationalization, it always ends up in English, right? So therefore, they were trying to find out how, at a very early age onwards, Indian system had inculcated English language. So I would, that is one side of the coin. But on the other side, I have also noticed my Korean friend whose family stays here. Now, he always teaches only everything in Korean to his child who is just 3 years old. And when we try to talk to her, he would always say probably she might not know English because we have made sure that she learns everything in Korean, even her signs and everything, so that she's clear about things. So there are two sides of looking at it. So it has to be weighed properly before decisions are taken. And next is investment in large number of language teachers. As you see, multilingualism is very good because children are definitely capable of learning many languages, right? So only thing is we are restricting them, but they are very good at learning at a very young age. So as you promote more languages to be learned, automatically you will need more of teachers, language teachers. So definitely there's going to be a huge investment, in large numbers for such language teachers in all regional languages around the country, mainly to popularize the language learning. And then, of course, there is this three-language formula. And next, we are planning to give high-quality bilingual textbooks, teaching, learning material for science and mathematics. There's going to be a cultural enrichment as well as national integration. And as I already told you, the fun project, right, of different languages are going to happen in grade 6 to 8. And then, of course, there is talk of Sanskrit, Pali, Persian, and Prakrit in the document, and learning of classical language and learning of foreign language is also being promoted. Languages like Korean, Japanese, Russian, all of that is being promoted within the curriculum framework itself. And next is, of course, a restructuring of the school curriculum and pedagogical structure. Even Indian Sign Language will be standardized across the country. Scientific temper and evidence-based thinking is likely to be included. And of course, reasoning, knowledge, and practice of human and constitutional values, gender sensitivity, fundamental duties, citizenship skills and values, knowledge of India, environmental awareness, all of this, are also being planned. And as I told you, some of the contemporary subjects that are likely to be included within The framework will be artificial intelligence, design thinking, holistic health, organic living, environmental education, global citizenship education. And there's a great thrust on vocational education. Occasion-based learning happens like carpentry or electric work, metal work, gardening, pottery making, right? So all of these are also being promoted, and they are also planning to have 10 bagless days for internship. Right, so that they can go and intern with any of the occasional field that they have, kind of worked on with. And next, a course on Indian knowledge system, right, will happen in the secondary stage. As I told you, a lot of cultural exchange visits are likely to take place during that time. Next is, of course, a value orientation and health orientation, right? So they are going to give a lot of orientation for our students. So that, we are looking at a well-rounded personality, a holistic approach. All of these actually adds value, right? So all the traditional Indian values, preventive health, mental health, good nutrition, and even the detrimental and damaging effects of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs will also be, kind of part and parcel of the education system. Okay, so how all of this is going to be done? We see that there is this national curriculum framework for school education, which has been undertaken by NCRT, and schools and teachers will also have choices in the textbook. That is what they have said, because if you are very particular about, the local context, and probably you're a history teacher and you feel that more of your local context should be there for children to know more about your own history, state history, then probably along with the main textbook, even all supplementary books relating to the regional wise supplementary books are also going to be given. So teachers are going to have ample choice. And then, of course, quality textbooks at lowest possible cost is being looked at, right? So all of this is to somewhere curb the commercialization of education aspect, and then significantly reduce the weight of school bags and textbook as such. Next will be transforming assessment for student development, right? So everywhere there is this talk of formative assessment with test which contains higher order skills such as analysis, critical thinking, conceptual clarity. And then we are also looking at a progress card which is going to be totally holistic in nature. It's a 360 degree multi-dimensional report that is going to be prepared by the institutions. So there will be a lot of stakeholders in it, right? It is even peers and along with teachers. There will be other people who would be looking at it so that a holistic approach of the child can actually emerge out of it. And then we see how a learner in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains, whether it has been improved. And also, there is going to be a self assessment, peer assessment, progress of the child in project based and inquiry based learning. There is going to be a lot of quizzes, role plays, group work, portfolios, etc., along with the teacher assessment. And the National Assessment Center, namely PARAC, that is the Performance Assessment Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development, they will be the standard setting body which will work under MHRD. They will fulfill the basic objectives of setting norms, standards, and guidelines for student assessment and evaluation for all recognized school boards of India. Next, of course, I think we already discussed, we are going to have a relook at the board exams. So board exams for grades 10 and 12 will be continued, but the existing system of board and various entrance examinations, they will be reformed. The whole idea of reformation is to eliminate the need for undertaking coaching classes. I'm sure all the parents here would agree totally because alongside schools, we have these coaching classes and coaching centers, these academies which have mushroomed like anything. Because so the government is looking at it in this fashion to eliminate the need for such coaching classes. So board exams for grades 10 and 12 will continue, but the existing system of entrance examination would be viewed. And then NCRT in consultation with SCRT as well as Board of Assessments and then National Assessment Center, along with the teachers who have been trained well, they are going to bring about certain way of assessing students. And also school examinations in grade 3, 5 and 8 are also being insisted. So it's like probably there is a talk that it's too early for examination or for any kind of assessment. That is to view at it from one angle. The other angle they say is probably to keep a kind of a check and a balance. It's kind of a check to see whether children have actually moved away from the rote learning and they have moved into the stream of the new way in which new structure in which things are moving forward. So it's considered to identify whether proper structure is actually happening in those schools and whether students are actually benefiting out of it. Next, also we see that there is a considerable support for gifted students, right? Students with special talents. Probably this is again a new venture because normally gifted students, and students with talents, I don't think not all schools are equipped to handle them. So here they have given a nice framework. They say that such children will be recognized and their talents will be fostered. How this is going to be done? For that reason, they say that Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes. So the next thing, of course, the main aspect is the teacher, right? So there are a lot of things on recruitment and the deployment part, and of course the service environment and the culture. So with recruitment, what they are suggesting is that outstanding students, right, they should be encouraged to enter such teaching profession. And also to provide regional language teachers, right? So teachers who can teach in their local language to promote them well, because they are looking at training, having people come from that particular area, getting trained and being employed in the schools in their particular region, so that they'll be able to relate with the children quite well, and that's how they are looking at the whole system. And they are planning to give a rural priority also for teachers, and they're trying to curtail certain transfers, right? So that teachers are not shunted here and there, and the child stays with the teacher for some more time for development purpose. And then the test is going to be kind of a mandatory stuff, and then sharing of teachers across schools, and they're planning to hire local eminent persons, right, who will be master instructors, and also technology-based comprehensive teacher requirement planning, forecasting. All of that are in the offing. And with regard to service environment and culture, we see that they are planning to develop school complexes wherein they'll be able to share counselors, social workers, technical and maintenance staff. to schools, which come under them, because otherwise every school may have to employ separately a counselor, a trained social worker, a technical maintenance staff, which would cut into their budget. So if they associate themselves with certain school complexes, then they would provide them with all of that kind of a support, and also create a very effective learning environment. And also, as I already pointed out, teachers are now going to be considered as stakeholders in governance itself. And then, of course, the effective time on teaching and learning process has to be taken into account, and so that they are going to take away certain activities which are not related to teaching. They are trying to minimize those things, or at least take it away from a teacher, so that very productively and constructively a teacher can utilize their time. And also, as I already pointed out, the teacher will have a complete autonomy in choosing their pedagogy, and also they will be recognized for any kind of novel ideas that they come about with. And for the development of teachers, we have the CPD, CMP, and the professional standards. So CPD refers to the continuous professional development, which means 50 hours. They may have to participate in 50 hours of certain continuous professional development in their own respective areas, or for their own development they have to take part. And also this has been promoted for leaders. Leaders will also be expected to participate in such 50 hours or more CPD modules per year. And then with regard to their career management and progression, you can see that it's going to be a merit-based structure, right? And here you see they are using the word tenure. And then their promotion, salary structure, everything will be developed based on their merit. And also they can have, with multiple levels within each teacher stage, that incentivizes and recognizes outstanding teachers within stage career progression, vertical mobility. All of that is also being provided for teachers. And then next is the professional standards for teachers. There is a common guiding set of national professional standards for teachers, which is going to be developed by 2022 by the National Council for Teacher Education. So this National Council for Teacher Education is now being restructured into PSSB, namely the Professional Standard Setting Body, which will come under the General Education Council, which will look into all those standards, again in consultation with NCERT and SCERTs. So what they are going to do is they will be setting standards, for role, for expertise, for competency, and for performance appraisal. And this is what I told you, how a teacher education will be in the future. So there is this 4-year program, which is integrated B.Ed by 2030. That is what they have planned. So this will be the minimum degree qualification for teachers by 2030. And you also have a 2-year plus bachelor's degree. Whoever has already completed a bachelor's degree, so they will be looking at a 2-year program. But after 2030, mostly it will be the 4-year integrated B.Ed that will be insisted upon. And there is this 1-year degree teacher education program that is offered to somebody who has taken up the 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's degree, which is yet to come up, right? So this 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's degree we'll be discussing when we discuss the higher education system. So if they have completed that, then a 1-year teacher education is what they would require. So teacher education will gradually be moved by 2030 into multidisciplinary colleges and universities, as colleges and universities all move towards becoming multidisciplinary. So they will also aim to house outstanding education departments that offer B.Ed, M.Ed, and PhD degrees in education. And here we see that high quality B.Ed programs can be offered both in blended as well as in the ODL mode. So now we were referring to a lot of talk on the socio-economically disadvantaged group. So I'm just giving you an idea about who are the people who come within that. So first and foremost, gender identities. They are the people who have been included in it, particularly female and transgender individuals. Secondly, we have the socio-cultural identities such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, and the minorities. Third, geographical identities, namely students from villages, small towns, and aspirational districts. And then fourth will be the disabilities, including learning disabilities there. And finally, even socio-economic condition based, such as migrant communities, low-income households, children in vulnerable situations, victims of or children of victims of trafficking, right? Orphans, including child beggars in urban areas and the urban poor, all have been included in the fold of inclusivity. So you see the heading over there. It is equitable and inclusive education, learning for all. So all of them would come under SEDG, namely socio-economically disadvantaged group. So bridging the social category gaps in access, participation, and learning outcomes are going to be formulated from all of this. So what kind of outcomes? Children with special needs. For them, schemes such as targeted scholarships, conditional cash transfers to incentivize parents to send their children to school, providing even bicycles for transport, and also forming special education zones. Right, so these zones will comprise of a large population who emerge from educationally disadvantaged, socio-economically disadvantaged group. And then there is this gender inclusion fund for girls and transgender. Then there is this free boarding facilities and specific learning disabilities who need continuous support, special hostels which are dedicated for regions, and certain bridge courses are going to be offered. And of course, there is this efficient resourcing and effective governance through school complexes and clusters. I think already we discussed a few of them, right? So the whole idea is to have an innovative mechanism in which you can group or rationalize schools. How are they going to come together? So this grouping structure, it is referred to as a school complex. So you're going to have one secondary school together with all other schools offering lower grades in its neighborhood area, like including Anganwadis in a radius of 5 to 10 kilometers. And then sometimes even twinning or pairing of one public school with one private school, so that they can share the resources. They can learn from each other, they can interact, and also the main reason is setting up sharing resources. And the standard setting and accreditation for school education, as we already saw, they are going to come up with transparent public self-disclosure of all basic regulatory information. Right? And academic matters, including academic standards and curricula in the state, will be led by the SCRT, of course, in collaboration with NCRT. And then SCRT will develop a school quality assessment and accreditation framework through wide consultation with all its stakeholders. So the whole idea is to achieve the SDG 4 of ensuring free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education for all children. And also a sample-based national achievement survey of student learning levels will be carried out by the new center, which I told you. Okay, so that is those are some of the changes, structural restructuring changes that are happening in the schools. So probably now a quick word about higher educational institutions restructuring and consolidation. Now, in higher education, the main thing is there is a lot of fragmentation. And every department or every unit, it works in silos. Like as I already pointed out, departments in science or departments in arts, humanities, they all worked in silos. But now they are referring to only multidisciplinary universities, and they're looking at universities which can even hold up to at least 3,000 or more students, right? So they are working towards that. And they also, instead of silos, they are looking at well-rounded across disciplines, right? And some of the types of universities are it's going to be only 3 types, mainly the research intensive university, where equal emphasis will be given for both teaching and research. Secondly, it will be teaching intensive university, where greater emphasis on teaching will be given, but still a significant research is getting carried out. And then the third category is referred to as the autonomous degree granting college, right? So this will refer to a large multidisciplinary institution of higher learning that is going to grant only undergraduate degrees. Right, and it is focused only on undergraduate teaching, while the remaining 2, they are more into research. The first one, equal emphasis for teaching and research. The second, more on teaching, less on significant work on research, whereas the third one is only dealing with undergraduate. We call them as autonomous degree granting college. And then there is the scope of multiple entry and exit options in undergraduate program. So a student who enters the portals of an institution can, when they leave during their first year undergraduation, they will get a certificate. During their second year, they will be granted a diploma. And during the third year, it will be a bachelor's degree. And fourth year, it will be a bachelor's with research. So there are subcommittees that have been formed to work on exactly the modalities of that. But they will be given a bachelor's with research. So this is going to have a kind of an impact on the regular structure that was prevalent in college education, where undergrad courses in arts and sciences were primarily only 3-year program, right? So now they have to move over to a 4-year program. And also one more thing is, even as the student leaves at the end of every year, the college or the institution or the university has to ensure that they provide a well-rounded program for them. So when they're leaving at the first year, they should have a well-rounded stuff. They cannot leave in between, right? So therefore, you have to plan in such a way that every year on its own provides a lot of inputs for the students, so that at the end of that period, they get sufficient knowledge, right? And that they are able to progress and they are able to become employable and so on. So that again calls for a lot of work and reworking. And of course, this ABC Academic Bank of Credits is going to play a huge role for especially when you exit and when you come back, your credits will always be preserved in the Academic Bank of Credit, and then it will be considered every time you're adding to it. And a sufficient number of those credits will definitely fetch you your degrees with research and so on. And another aspect is even ODLs are being considered, open distance learning. Even credits from there can also find place here. So that's also a unique feature which will definitely benefit students. And there are a lot of online learning portals which are doing quite well, and students are already into many of it. So if those learning can add credits, then nothing like it. So therefore, all of that is now being thought of. And now, with regard to master's program, there are three types. That is, there is a 2-year program with the second year, which is devoted entirely to research. But this is for those people who have completed the 3-year bachelor's program. So somebody who has completed 3 years bachelor program, they can do this 2-year program. And for students who are completing the 4-year bachelor's program, it's enough if they complete a 1-year master's program. And there is another option of integrated 5-year bachelor's come master's program, which already has been in certain universities and institutions. And with regard to PhD, they may have to the qualification would be that either a master's degree, right, or a 4-year bachelor's degree with research. So if that is the case, then they are eligible to do PhD. The next important move was that removing of MPhil program. MPhil program has been discontinued, right? So this again, during the implementation phase, there could be issues because certain colleges, MPhil program has been part of calculation of workload basis and based on which teachers have been recruited. So this could again be an implementational issue at that point in time. And then with regard to the aim, by 2040, all higher education institutions have to become multidisciplinary institutions. So it's a big move, big leap that we are going to make, and they need to have larger student enrollment. So for that, the initial step that they have planned is become a multidisciplinary by 2030, and then gradually keep increasing the student strength. As already GR was pointed out, the ideal ratio is 50% to achieve 50% by 2035. And then by 2030, at least one large multidisciplinary higher education institution will be found near every district. And then open distance learning as well as online programs would be provided, right? And that would enable lifelong learning. And quality of such online courses will be integrated with curricula of higher education institutions. Blended mode will be preferred. And towards a more holistic and multidisciplinary education, this is one of the main aim, right, of NEP. And here we see that different courses that have been offered, different skills that are likely to be developed over the period of their 3-year or their 4-year study. So it could be mathematics, science, vocational subjects, professional subjects, soft skills, research, right, flexible curricular structures, and then there is a lot of things on humanistic, ethical, institutional, universal, human values, value-based education, environmental education, and we have scientific temper, and then lessons in seva service and participation in community service, internships along with local industry, businesses, right? And then there is this more focus on research and innovation by setting up startup incubation centers and so on. And so what is going to be phased out or what is going to be replaced? We see that single stream, higher education institutions, exclusively if they have run on one particular stream, then they will be definitely phased out. And also the concept of affiliated colleges over a period of 15 years through a system of graded autonomy are likely to be phased out, and they should find place in one of the 3 things that we said. And then, other things like the nomenclature, present nomenclature that's there for deemed to be university, affiliating university, unitary university, all are likely to be replaced. They should find themselves being graded, and they will be getting replaced simply by university by fulfilling the criteria as per the notes. And then, of course, there is a lot of talk on developing an institutional development plan. So for the future, as well as how you're going to go about, and your future plan, your vision, and so on. So every institution is requested to come up with their own institutional development plan. And then there is this concept of internationalization. So in the name of internationalization, we are going to have a lot of research, teaching, collaboration, and faculty-student exchanges with high-quality foreign institutions. There's going to be a lot of MOUs with foreign countries, and even our own universities are encouraged to set offshore campuses, and then 100 top foreign universities can set up campuses in India. So again, that is during the implementation phase, it has to be seen, because like two sides of a coin, we really don't know how this is going to be working out, because as such we keep receiving news that the top 100 foreign universities are mostly are full. They have their own student strength. So whether there would be a need for them to set up a campus in India, that has to be worked out. And why limit to, if you really want foreign universities to come about, then why limit only to 100 top universities? Because they might, whether they would be interested to come over, we don't know. But there would be other universities which definitely would want to come over, as I said, because they lack students in their own respective regions. So definitely they would want to set up campuses. So many things are there which have to be worked out. And then, of course, vocational education is now turning out to be part of the college education too. And there is a study which says in India, the formal vocational education is probably received by people only less than 2%. Whereas if you look at USA, 52%, Germany, 75% receive formal education, South Korea, 96% receive such formal vocational education. But there are certain myths associated with vocational education and perceptual issues. When we talk about vocation, immediately we think it will receive a stepmotherly treatment. But all that has to be done away with by showing what prospects students have when they take up such vocational education stream. So the initial issue with regard to India was that there was a lack of vertical mobility for students from vocational education stream. They could not do their masters in anywhere they wanted, right? Because they were gained in some vocational stuff. So therefore, and then next is the perception towards vocational education, and then the quality of vocational education. They are now planning to integrate it with higher education. So for that, they are having this NCIVE, that is a National Committee for Integration of Vocational Education, which is going to do a thorough skill gap analysis. They are going to map certain local opportunities with the stakeholders, and they're going to provide those kind of required skills that a student has to develop themselves, so that immediately they either become employable or they become useful to the community. And by 2025, at least 50% of learners through the school as well as higher education system will have exposure to vocational education. And next, of course, I told you it's about the National Research Foundation. It's a very to develop a robust ecosystem of research, right? Because as already pointed out, a lot of studies need to be done in climate change, whether it's regard to population dynamics, biotechnology, digital marketing, whatever. And then the rise of machine learning, artificial intelligence, so much of research work needs to be done in all of these areas. So if you look at some of the statistics which says research and innovation investment in India, they say of GDP, it is only 0.69%. When compared to US, which is 2.8, with Israel, it's 4.3, and Korea, it's 4.2. So, and then there is, of course, certain societal challenges, which again, people have to come about with solutions. And for solutions, research has to be done, innovation has to be thought of. Developing a research mindset becomes very, very crucial, right? And the role of NRF itself, the goal itself, is to enable a culture of research to permeate through our universities, and also to provide some peer-reviewed research funding. This is something that we already looked up, right? So how UGC, AICTE, NAC, and all other bodies, right, now will be replaced by Higher Education Commission of India, and under them there will be 4 verticals: for regulation purpose, for accreditation purpose, for grant purpose, right? And for bringing out certain learning outcomes, for bringing out graduate attributes, the GEC will be working on that, for bringing out certain frameworks and so on. So again, another PSSB role, which we saw earlier also. So what are some of the councils that form or they are merging together to become or restructure themselves as PSSB will be the Agricultural Research, Veterinary Council, Teacher Education, Architecture, Vocational Education, right? All of them, kind of these bodies, they will be restructuring into professional standard setting body, right, as PSSP. And they will be drawing the curricula, they lay down academic standards, they will coordinate between teaching, research, and extension of their domain discipline, and they will be as members of GEC. And of course, we spoke about the public philanthropic partnership and some of the checks and balances which the regulatory framework is likely to keep. Okay. And next is about the professional education. So we are referring to the standalone agricultural universities, legal universities, health science, technical universities, and many standalone institutions in other fields. They have to aim to become multidisciplinary institutions, which will be offering holistic and multidisciplinary education. So this is the aim, this is the plan. And then the ability to understand and use local language, traditional knowledge, emerging technologies, all of these also need to find place. To generally sum up our, I think, close to an hour, and 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I'd like to sum up and place before you some of the challenges. So the policy identifies all of these key areas, right? So main thing is universal provisioning of quality early childhood care education, and they're ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy, adequate and appropriate resourcing of school complexes and clusters, providing food and nutrition, investing in teacher education, continuing professional development of teachers, revamping colleges and universities to foster excellence, cultivating research, extensive use of technology and online education. And of course, they always refer to teachers at the center of the policy. So change in teacher education, recruitment, quality control, and accountability is also likely to happen. And so what could be some of the challenges probably is during the consolidation of higher education institutions, into three categories, it really has to be worked out. And then the impact for the future colleges, in what fashion it would come up. The multiple entry and exit option could be a great challenge, as you already pointed out, whether it would result in people continuing with their education or whether it would be, something that they might an option to drop out easily. And then the curriculum designed for 3 years versus 4 years. So what is it exactly we are going to offer during the 4th year, and all of that planning, a lot of planning has to happen. And then what will be the implication in the job market? When a 3-year degree person and a 4-year degree holder goes to the job market, who will be preferred? So that has to be addressed. And then what will be the financial implication, right? So an undergrad course for 3 years and 4 years has its own financial implications. So how are parents and how students are going to address that? And of course, questions of access and equity, though, everywhere throughout the document, we find that access and equity is something that has been, provided and assured, but still always, because of the demography, because of, our vast nature, because of so much of diversity, this would, we have to really look at it, whether it is reaching everyone and so on. And then proper mentoring and academic planning centers are needed. And of course, there is too much thrust on the teachers. And once they feel that once they complete the teacher education for 4 years, they are highly equipped and so on. So how qualified they would be really, in a real-time sense to handle issues. And then, of course, there is a lot of centralization. That's what we see. Many of the councils coming together, restructuring to form a single board and so on. So a lot of centralization is happening. And then, of course, rural India has its own issues. There would be grassroots level problem in every institution. Retaining students, right? Whatever be said and done, but retaining students as such would also be an issue, especially girl children. And then enabling teachers, right, to deliver anything matching the curriculum. Creating sufficient technological infrastructure, delivering the computer education. For that, you require a lot of budgets. right? And then you have to ensure that every educated person, right, is actually employable. And then you have this multidisciplinary study options. So what kind of disciplines are going to offer? And then NEP recommends a spending of 6% of GDP in education. So they should also step up to providing that. And then huge funds, infrastructure coupled with large teaching faculty. There is a lot of digital divide, right? And creating a strong ecosystem, rebuilding our universities. So all of this, suddenly there is a sudden flush of need of finance. But all said and done, we find that this is definitely a very progressive measure, and with all the stakeholders, probably coming up to do their part, the collaboration of the stakeholders would definitely make sure that it has been properly implemented, and through philanthropic measures, because a lot of investment is also needed. I'm sure that if that also comes through, then NEP will definitely prove to be a very progressive, very fruitful, exercise that we'll all be carrying out. So I would like to end by saying that we all need to ensure that India reclaim its rightful place in the mantle of world education. Thank you. I wish to thank the chairperson, the principal, the correspondent, the teachers, as well as the students for having given me this opportunity. And I would like to thank all the participants too. So thank you everyone. Probably if there are any questions, I can. Yes, I see that question there. So as I already pointed out, I told you about two instances, one in Korea, another one in Japan, right? So, mother tongue definitely plays a crucial role. So here they're not only referring to mother tongue, they even talk about home language, because children come from different backgrounds and different, language speaking. So they're referring it to as home language. The whole idea is, it is a proven fact. It is a proven fact that such learning, if you take countries like China, if you take countries like Japan, if you take countries like Korea, right, even Germany, they have all experienced it. One thing is, we have always made sure that our children learned in English throughout. But as I already told you, the other aspect of it, right? When I went to Japan, the talk that I was asked to give is how Indian children equip themselves in English language at the earlier stage. So I think somewhere a balance, we have to strike a balance somehow in that angle. Okay, so let me thank you, all of you, once again for having provided me with this opportunity. I know it's a very extensive talk because it comprises condensing all the things that we find in the 66 page of the document, and we cannot leave out anything. So it is quite an extensive talk, but at the same time, understanding the whole of it is very crucial for us because I think we may have to start working towards it. So I wish all the best to all the teachers here as well as to SA Engineering College. Once again, I would like to congratulate for the many feats that you have accomplishments that I got to hear during the introduction time. You've been doing a great job with regard to various achievements, including the ISO achievement. So I would like to congratulate you once again and all the best for the new academic year too. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. A feedback link has been posted in the chat box. I kindly request all the participants to fill the feedback form before closing the session. I now thank Dr. Sharmila for being here with us and educating us about national educational policy and sharing your experience and knowledge with us. We all appreciate the effort and energy you took for this session. I'd also like to thank the participants for joining us in this session and giving us your utmost cooperation. I hope that you all enjoyed the session. Finally, I kindly request all the participants to fill the feedback form of this session which has been posted in the chat box. Thank you. Happy learning.